Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kate if you're new here, and I'm the creator of Rosie Dolls. Today I'm going to be showing you how I make my basic doll body. There are several dolls in my shop that I use this pattern for, and it's just my go-to pattern. And I use quite a unique method for attaching the arms, and I would love to see who's ever run across this before. My mom used a pattern to make a bunny doll when I was a little girl, and the pattern had this method, and I haven't seen it since then. So let me know in the comments if you've ever seen this before and what you think. Obviously, I would love it if you liked and subscribed. I have so much to share. I'm going to be doing a Pioneer doll and a Green Gables doll, some animals, and a lot of tutorials on embroidering doll faces, and also some tutorials for attaching yarn hair. Um, so I hope you'll join me, and let's get started. Okay, getting started, I just have a few basic tools that I use in addition to my sewing machine. The most notable items that I use are my hemostats, which I cannot live without as a doll maker. I have to have them, and I highly recommend getting some. They're pretty easy to find on Amazon. And I also use upholstery thread for attaching the head. I've just found that it is very sturdy, it does not tangle, and I know I can rely on it to hold up for the long run. Now I'm tracing my pattern pieces. I'm using my permanent pattern pieces that I've made this doll hundreds of times, so I have some more durable um, pattern pieces made for this doll. But I'm leaving some extra space for the body, and you'll find out why. And also for the head, because I want to be able to put it into an embroidery hoop. I embroider the face of each of my dolls, and so I leave a little extra space around it. Any scraps that you see being discarded will go in my scrap pile and will be used in the future for miniature dolls. I do make a miniature doll, and so these little scraps are perfect for their arms and legs. So now I'm going to trim my torso piece to just the right size, and I am going to cut the back piece in half so that I can have an opening in the back of my doll. I like to sew up the bottom before I stuff the doll. It just makes for a cleaner seam at the bottom of the torso. So I'm folding my back piece in half, and I'm going to cut right down the middle. And the pattern you use will have a marking on the torso pattern piece to show you where to make these marks. But I'm marking where the opening is going to be on the back of the doll's torso. I've done this so many times that I just wing it. So I'm going to sew along the top and the bottom of that edge, but not right in that center place that I've marked. And I'm sewing with probably a 1/4 inch seam allowance here. And make sure to backstitch right on the edge of that opening so that when you stuff the doll, that seam isn't coming undone. Okay, and I'm going to open that piece up and kind of press it. You can press it with an iron, but you want to press that open. I'm going to do it the hard way here. So that little space will be the opening in the back. And now we're just going to, oh yes, and make sure the top seam is longer than the bottom seam. The long seam goes on top. And that seam is going to go right down the middle of this drawn torso. Again, I'm just eyeballing it before I pin it. And now I'm going to cut out my torso piece with the front pinned to the back. And we're going to be sewing on the line. So I just would encourage you to give yourself as much seam allowance as you're comfortable with. I always do about 1/4 of an inch. I've made the mistake of not giving myself enough seam allowance, and then when I stuff the stuffing out of that doll, those seams tend to pop open. So just be careful and make sure you give yourself enough seam allowance. Now I'm just going to sew the arms and legs. I'm sewing around and I'm sewing on the line and just leaving that top flat edge open because that's where we'll stuff our limbs. And I love to sew first and cut later. I feel like it gives me more control over how much seam allowance I have, and it's easier to sew that way. So we're sewing first and then we're going to cut these pieces out. And I always just make sure to do a back stitch when I start and when I finish, so that once again when we're stuffing they don't unravel. So I'm cutting these out and I'm putting some little snips on the curve. That just ensures that when you turn your pieces and stuff them, the seams are a lot smoother. Now we're sewing the legs. Same thing here, we're going to leave that opening on that short flat line at the top, and again make sure to do a back stitch when you begin and when you finish. And I go a little bit past the drawn line when I'm sewing the limbs. Okay, now we're going to turn our pieces, and this is where these hemostats come in handy. There are other methods for turning doll limbs. I know there are tutorials out there, but for the sake of brevity, I'm going to skip that today and just go with my normal method. And so I'm just turning these. And then I'll put my hemostats back in and push out those seams before I stuff. All right, and now it's time to stuff our limbs. I start with a smaller piece of stuffing just to get that, well, I didn't there. I just want to make sure I get the very end firmly stuffed. And I'll press and push and press and push until it feels like it's going to stay stuffed. You don't want that stuffing sliding back away from the end. So, and then I just kind of stuff until I'm almost to the end, but you want to leave it loosely stuffed at the end so that there's space to sew it shut and sew it into the doll. So you don't want the top opening area too firmly stuffed. And you'll hear me say this a lot throughout these processes, but stuffing is like sculpting. You really have to just work the stuffing until you get it in the shape that you want. You know, I'll run it between my fingers until there's no lumps, until it feels smooth and even, and really stuff the end firmly. And now I'm going to sew these openings closed. This just makes it easier to manage when we're sewing the arms and the legs into the doll. And I just like to trim off all the frayed parts and have a really clean line. Stuffing is so important in doll making. I've so often not put enough stuffing in, and it just allows for the doll to become misshapen and things to move around, and you don't want that. You want to stuff that doll until you think you can't stuff it anymore, and then stuff it a little bit more, and just really take your time moving that stuffing around until you have the shape you want. There's no rush, and we want to make sure that doll's looking right. So now I'm going to sew the legs onto the bottom of the front torso piece. So I'll flip it over so that the lines are facing down. And then my legs are the legs of the doll, that is, not my legs. The legs of the doll are shaped so that one side is a little bit longer than the other. So you can kind of see, I'm trying to figure out which side it is, but that will be marked on your pattern. So you can mark your pieces before you cut them out. So we want to make sure the long ends are on the outside edge when we put them down. So we marked some lines as a guide, about 1/4 of an inch in, and we're going to sew the legs to that torso piece, to the bottom of the torso piece. Okay, and I stop right here in the middle and then bring in the other leg. You can pin this in place, but I just Like I said, I've done this so many times that I don't really feel like I need to, but sometimes that helps just keep it in place. You just want to make sure you have 1/4 of an inch on the outer edge on each side of the legs. Okay. So now we're going to face that front torso piece to the back piece and pin that in place. And like I said, we're going to be sewing right on the line. And I found that this just really allows for accuracy. And we're going to sew right down past that leg. So make sure you don't sew the leg into that side seam. And you'll see what I mean here in just a minute. We're starting right on the armpit corner, and we're going to do a back stitch. My stitch size is about 1.8, unless I'm sewing the head, and then it's 1. So I keep it really small, and I'm doing a back stitch. And like I said, I did not sew on the leg, I sewed right alongside it. And now we'll do the other side. It's very important to do a back stitch when you start on that armpit corner, because when you sew the arm in, you do not want that unraveling at all. I've really learned to take things slow when I'm doll making, because I am one of those people who just wants to rush through it and get that dopamine hit and get it done and see the finished product, and I always get myself in trouble and end up having to go, rip seams and turn heads around, and so I've learned my lesson the hard way after many mistakes. But yes, you don't want to rush the doll making process. It takes care, and it's just best to take your time. But again, let's see. Right here, I'm sewing around the neck, and so I'm using a triple stitch, which my sewing machine provides. If you don't have that, I recommend setting to a very small stitch, probably a 1, and going around this part twice, because you do not want the seam popping. You're going to be stuffing this very firmly, and you want your seam to stay secure. So I'm just taking my time going around this edge with that triple stitch, and that should secure my seam. Okay, and you can see that makes a really sturdy stitch. And then I'm going to, well, I'm out of the frame, but hopefully you see it on the other side. Yes, I'm just snipping right at the shoulder and neck, and then I'm going to snip around the neck edge. And then to cut the arm openings, I am cutting right on the line, but I don't want to snip that back stitch because I want it to stay intact, sorry. And so just carefully snip right on the edge to make the arm opening. And then I'm going to clip off this little extra bit right here. That's what it should look like. We'll come and do the other side. Just cutting right on that line. And just clipping that little extra corner. And so now we're ready to put these arms in. I'm very nervous. I hope y'all don't hate me for this because it's an uncomfortable process. It's a little bit counterintuitive, but you can see right here there are 2 openings for the arms, and the arm has a little groove at the hand, and that's going to be facing up when you insert the arm. So we're just going to pull the arm right through. You can use your hemostats to pull the arm through this opening, but the seam that goes down the side of the doll is going to run right up the middle of that arm. And it seems like the arm is too big, but that's okay. It's going to bunch just a little bit, and you want the back, the armpit to match the shoulder. And then we're going to sew at an angle. We don't want to go straight across. That will make it look very weird and it will not lay right. So just trust me, do a little angle that goes along that shoulder. So when you get to the middle, we're going to turn and go the rest of the way. And I'll show you what it looks like here. I'm using that triple stitch again, but if you don't have it, again, you can just go over it twice. And there it is. I know it does not look or feel right at the moment, but when we get it stuffed, hopefully you'll feel much better about it. And now we're going to do the other side. Again, that little bump, it's kind of like the thumb of the doll faces up as you insert the arm. And we're pulling it through that opening. And we just have to take our time here. Just work it until it's in place and those seams match. And like I said, it's just uncomfortable and doesn't feel right, but I love the end effect once I get it stuffed. And I'm having to work it a little bit here, as you can see. So yes, it's okay to take your time until you're ready to sew, and we're doing it again at that angle. Boom, boom. And we did it. It's looking horrible. But I'm turning it right side out because the bottom is still open. We haven't sewn that closed yet. And you can see what it looks like now that I've turned it. It's looking promising. And I'm just going to push the seam out at the neck. And there we have it. We're ready to sew the bottom of the torso closed. So we're just going to turn that raw seam under and match the line that goes down the back of the doll with the middle of the legs and pin that closed, and then I'm just going to pin along that edge and sew that closed. I used to sew this bottom edge closed by hand, but it was such a big opening to sew by hand, and I wanted it to be more secure, so that's why I came up with the center back seam. It was just a much smaller opening to have to close up, and I think it works better. Whoops. Got pins flying. So I'm just sewing right along the edge here to close up this bottom torso. The machine's giving me a little bit of attitude. Here we go. So we're just sewing really slowly right across there, pulling pins out as we go. And it's just a lot easier too to sew that closed before you stuff it. It's quite a challenge to sew that once it's stuffed. And it makes it a lot harder to have a really clean line. Alright, and I'm just trimming up some little threads here and loving how this is looking. Alright, now we're ready to stuff the torso. And we're going to start with the neck. I like to roll a piece and put it right into the neck, and then just very slowly and carefully make sure I just stuff every inch of that torso. I mean, this is the most important part, because if your neck is not firmly stuffed, then your doll is going to be flopping around. Its neck is going to lose its structure, and we don't want that. So I'm pushing stuffing into the neck first and then into the shoulders. And like I said, this is like sculpting. I mean, you take your time You make sure every little space is stuffed just the way you want it. Don't be afraid to take the stuffing out and reposition things. I mean, I've done that many times where I'm just like, nope, this isn't working, and I just start over again. So you'll be much happier with your result if you do that. And so once I get it stuffed about halfway, I start stuffing these little corners at the bottom of the torso, because we don't want those deflated. We want to make sure those are stuffed nicely while we still have room. And then once I have those nicely filled out, I'm just getting as much stuffing in there as I can. I still see some room at the shoulders where it's a little bit, see, I'm testing its give, and there's still quite a bit of give. So I just want to stuff this until there's no more give. I mean, you gotta kind of be forceful, and that's why I fortified that neck so much, because we don't want those seams ripping. That's very sad. I've had that happen too, where you're stuffing that doll and the seams of the neck rip, and oh, it's the worst feeling. You've gotten this far. So it's really important to get as much into those shoulders as you can as well. Still some give in the neck. I just keep going until I feel like that neck can withstand a little bit of wear and tear. That's feeling better. And I'm going to keep going. Oh man, yes. Keep going. Keep stuffing. When you sew that back closed, it will cinch the waist a little bit. So don't be alarmed by the shape of your doll at this point. It will come together once you've sewn that back opening closed. So now I'm going to get out my upholstery thread. I chose upholstery thread because it doesn't tangle easily. It's very sturdy. I mean, it's meant for furniture, so. And I know it's just going to hold that doll together. So that's what I sew the openings closed with. That's what I sew the head on with. It's my go-to thread for hand sewing things. So I get a nice big knot at the end of that, and I'm going to go in with, I mean, you can call it what you want, a ladder stitch, disappearing stitch, and I'll probably make a video just demonstrating all the different stitches that I use to make my dolls, but I think if you look up ladder stitch, you can see a demonstration of this. Come back to the frame. Sometimes I forget I'm filming. Here we go. This is always satisfying, closing up this opening. And then I just knot that and tuck it in to the doll, and yay, we have our little doll body. And I just love how the arms look and how they lay down by the sides, and I know they're not going to fall off. I'm a huge fan. So now we're going to be making the head. I've already embroidered this doll's head. I am doing the Anne of Green Gables doll for this video, and I have a tutorial on embroidering the doll face that will be a part of this series once I come out with the pattern and have the playlist. All of that will be available in my shop, rosiedolls.store. And so we're just going to cut right on the line that we've drawn very carefully. It's always scary to me cutting out an embroidered face because you spent a lot of time on that. It's a little more dangerous than just cutting out a blank head. But I just have to trust the process. And so we're just going to cut right on the line. And then we're going to cut these little notches out. I don't know if you can see them. Again, right on the line. All right, and then we're going to close those notches with a very small seam. Probably a little less than 1/4 of an inch right there. We're just going to sew right on that line. Yeah. It's barely less than 1/4 of an inch. And I set my stitch size to be very small, like I set it at a 1. And these notches will just give the head a little more dimension. Okay, and then we're going to match those seams and pin around the edge of the head. And I'm just going to mark my start and finish points just a little bit outside of those seams. And when I sew around the edge, I'm going to have a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And I use my sewing machine foot as a guide, but I'm just showing you here it's going to be a pretty small seam allowance. So hopefully you can find a spot or mark a spot on your sewing machine foot to guide you all the way around the edge. And Again, I'm setting it at a small stitch, as small as possible, and I just go very slowly around this edge because this is, like I said, I spent some time on that embroidered face and I do not want to mess this up. So I really take my time sewing around the edge of the head. And I forgot to mention this when we started sewing the seam, but you want to do a back stitch when you start and when you finish so that when you're stuffing the head, that seam doesn't come undone. And I'm just snipping around the edges so that when I turn the head, it's a smooth seam. And I always put my first snip at the very bottom center of the face so that when I stuff it, there's no wonky, I'm not sure how to describe it, but it just helps it to be more symmetrical when you stuff it. So I start by just stuffing a fair amount into the very middle of the head, and you can see it's just loosely stuffed right now. And then I start to work my stuffing around the edge. So I'm just pushing it into the seam around the edge of the face, and that really helps to smooth out that seam and make sure that there's not too much stuffing right in the middle of the face. You know, we want the middle of the face to be a little bit flatter, and so whoops so that's why we're pressing the stuffing around the edge. And again, we're sculpting, y'all. it's a process. We stuff and stuff and then stuff some more and then press and stuff and push, and you know, you just have to really work it and get it the shape you like. And sometimes I use a needle once I've sewn it up and I move the stuffing around a little bit more. I just really take my time with this because you can get the shape you want. Just think of it as molding that stuffing into the shape you want. And once it feels like it's all stuffed, I stuff it a little bit more. But yeah, it's looking good. Oh, nope, I'm going to stuff it a little bit more. And I'm really pushing it around that edge seam. That really helps smooth that seam out and give the head the shape I want. And I've even seen doll makers take a rolling pin to flatten the face out just a little bit once they've sewn it closed, and sometimes that can help because you don't want the front of the face like rounding out too much. You want it to be a little bit flatter, like I said. So that's looking good. I think I'm ready to sew this closed. So I'm getting my upholstery thread again and just doing the same thing I did when I closed up the back. And you want to stay pretty close to the edge of this opening, because if your seam allowance is too big here, your head will be too stout. So we want to stay close to the edge of the opening as possible. I mean, you don't want that seam ripping as well, you know. And this is going to be covered with hair, so it doesn't have to be as pretty as the seam on the back of the doll, but I do my best. And again, I'm just doing a ladder stitch or disappearing stitch. And then when I pull it closed, I press that stuffing down into it as I pull it closed. All right. Now you can see I'm just kind of working. I'm tucking, I can see threads through the fabric, so I will use a needle to tuck those under the eyes and the mouth so that you can't see them. And then I'll grab my iron and just really squeeze that head on the face and iron the edge seam. And that really helps smooth it out. I learned this from another doll maker when I first started this journey, and I'm so grateful for these amazing doll makers who shared their secrets. I couldn't have done it without them, so that's why I'm sharing this with you. Now, I usually eyeball this process, but I'm adding this option just in case you need a guide. This is going to be where we will stitch the head to the neck. So the top rounded edge of the neck will be the top of the circle, and then we're drawing on the bottom of the circle. And then we're going to draw the same circle on the back of the head. First though, we're going to position the head where we want it, and then just draw a guideline right at the top of the neck. And then we'll draw that circle onto the back of the head. And we're just going to do a ladder stitch along the edge of those circles, pulling them together. You'll see what I mean here in just a minute. But this kind of gives us a guide so it's not wonky. Right, and once those circles are kind of matched up, we'll pin this in place and start sewing. Alright, let's get our upholstery thread and sew this head on. I'm going to tuck that knot under the neck and then come up through at the top of the neck and just sew along those circles that I've drawn on each piece. And once again, we're using that ladder stitch or disappearing stitch, and that's going to make it disappear. This part can be tricky too. It's good to take your time, make sure you're matching those stitches with each other. That will ensure that they really do become invisible, and that line that we drew really will help. But I found that sewing it on this way helps stabilize the neck even more, and all that stuffing pays off. I'm kind of out of the frame here. All this handling of the doll reminds me that one important thing to do when you're doll making is to wash your hands before you start. Seems obvious, but I mean, all of the handling can really add up after a while. So, it's not that your hands are necessarily dirty, but all the oils and, any makeup or anything like that, it can show up pretty quickly when you're handling the doll a lot. So, good to wash your hands. I usually end up wearing a thimble for this part just because I've been making a ton of dolls and it can really start to wear on your fingers. So a thimble is good for all the hand stitching. I really love the silicone thimbles that they have now. It's a lot more comfortable than the old metal ones. Okay, once we've made it all the way around, we're just going to pull that until all those stitches disappear, and we might have to adjust some stuffing, but she's looking good, y'all. I'm excited. We're gonna knot this and tuck it in, and so the next video is going to be a hair tutorial, and since this is the Anne of Green Gables doll, we are going to do the two braids down the sides this time. But I have a lot of hairstyles to show you, and so again, make sure you subscribe because those are going to be coming down the pipeline. And I'm just using my needle because, as you can see, there's a few little lumps, and so you can use your needle to kind of move things around and fill any little spots in. But yeah, I'm loving that. So I hope you join us next time. Thanks for watching, and when the pattern comes out, it will be on my website at rosiedolls.store. So be on the lookout for that. And you can see how her arms just lay so naturally by her sides, and they are not going anywhere, y'all. That's one thing I love, is I feel like when I hand sew the arms, they sometimes will loosen, and so that's the main reason I came up with this method. But thanks, y'all.